I'm Alan Cutter. I'll be moderating. So this morning I woke up and I told my wife that I'm moderating a panel on educational technology. And she goes, what does EdTech have to do with talent acquisition? And she's like, Alan, why are you wearing a t-shirt? And she thinks everyone in EdTech wears suits. So that shows that we're just made aliyah. So my question to the panel today is, what does EdTech, in your mind, have to do with talent acquisition? I'm going to start with Noam, since he's new to everybody.
Hey, everyone. Thanks, Alan, for the question. So actually, we're engaging with different enterprises, and we hear a lot the blend of words of learning, talent acquisition, talent development, even talent retention to some extent. And I think that nowadays what at least we at Gloat see all day is how talent development actually is linked to learning, is linked to cultural education and cultural shift within a company. How employees within a company need to understand they need to take ownership on their career, keep on developing, keep on reskilling and upskilling themselves. Hence, it is completely linked to education.
Okay, Gal, you want to try that one?
Not sure I have a good answer, but there's one common word between education and recruitment: talent. So talent is at the center of the efforts, and you need to understand how to acquire the right talent, how to develop the right talent, how to teach them. I wish there was a program to teach recruiters how to recruit better. That would be good education.
Just to set the record, Gal is very anti-recruiter. We could start with that right off the bat.
No.
It's okay. We love you anyways.
I know you've been a recruiter for a lot of years.
Shahar, do you see a time where there will be technology to assess somebody's skills, hard skills and soft skills, and see what's missing, and then the companies will invest in education, in educating that potential candidate who has not started with them and will not start with them until they have been educated in a skill that they have recognized as missing, yet other aspects fit perfectly because AI will be able to predict that that person's personality would be excellent for the company?
So first, with all my passion and love to AI, I don't think there's a world where any machine can predict to that level which potential person will fit perfectly into a company, because at the end of the day, it's not people versus product, people versus people. There's a lot of emotional aspects that come into play that will not be able to be predicted by any AI anytime soon, maybe 200 years from now. With that said, I think the companies are moving more and more to a world where micro skills, it's what's needed. I was born and raised in a culture where you're looking for a software developer, a product manager, and now we're moving into, I need someone that can define an MVP. I need someone that can do that. And so I think that companies will be looking for those micro capabilities to fill a specific need or hire a specific set of soft skills that perfect the company DNA, and then we'll focus on their education. And so I think there's a gap between I need someone to do something or I need to build an organizational DNA over time.
So next to me, Sandra is an expert in assessing soft skills. She created an amazing company that is like the escape room for soft skills. And so my question to you, Sandra, is do you envision a time where, because right now, let's be honest, companies don't really care so much about soft skills. It's about fitting into the box. But will there be a day soon that soft skills will be really important because AI could potentially replace so much of the repetitive tasks that what will be left is the more executive level or the more full-time people that will have those soft skills? And where do you think soft skills will play in the future?
Well, hi. I think it starts itching already. I can feel and see companies start to talk about those missing links that are soft skills actually and not hard skills. And I think the world is going to the understanding of the importance of self-development, understanding that two people can look exactly the same on the CV. One will succeed in a startup stressed environment, and one will not because of what they bring on the soft side. And I definitely see the trend right now in the beginning, and I think it's going to the point that it's going to be very, very important and invested.
Now, do you see companies who want to retain their employees investing in soft skills?
Companies that what?
Want to retain their employees.
Yeah.
Can your company help with that as well? Tell us a little bit about what your company does. It's really fascinating.
Well, it's a smart kind of quest escape room that built on top of a method that we developed. While we looked on future trends in HR talks about soft skills, recruitment based on soft skills, development and hiring based on soft skills. So we mapped over 200 different soft skills from negotiation and working in a stressed environment and empathy and so on and so on. And the game is built on those 200 different soft skills. While we match the game, it's flexible according to the hiring manager need. So we are focusing on soft skills. That means that we can have one team of candidates that are programmers and the other one are HR and finance. We don't even look at all on the professional side. And so, yeah, this is what we do. And this is my whole life is about trying to understand human behavior and understand from the behavior what kind of strengths and abilities the person has.
Gal, do you think your tool or other tools in the future will be able to show a candidate a soft skill that would not be on a resume, but yet somehow through bots you're able to illuminate that soft skill?
So first, I often laugh when companies say, great candidate doesn't fit culturally, which means, in other words, I don't like him, he's not like me. In other words, I'm using my bias to hire people, which is common. So I think that AI will replace or assist that. I don't know if you guys have watched the chapter in Black Mirrors where software determines your perfect mate. Anyone who watched that chapter? Where people are connected to BI and they get a chance to either date for 1 day or 1 year, and at the end of the period, the software tells them which of the people they dated is the perfect match, and they just marry them. So I think that eventually is going to happen with recruitment. Even today, we can look at the people who are working for a company and determine patterns using AI. What people are more likely to be hired, what people are more likely to stay longer, which is very, very important in considering hiring, and AI can do that. And I think that we're not in the assessment business, but what we use in our process is what we call collaboration platform, where hiring managers do thumbs up or thumbs down to a list of candidates we present to them, and we only go and fetch the thumbs up, which is obviously a bias. Although we don't show pictures or names, it is based on the candidate that they are biased towards. And that is likely to reflect who they are likely to hire, and then we can come back and tell them, you tend to hire this kind of people versus other people, and maybe you should correct the way you hire.
And, I wouldn't call it feedback, but more just, in my opinion as a recruiter, that only providing a sourcing tool it still is a lot of work for the hiring manager, and it's just yet another tool where they're much better tool maybe than others, but to me, you would need assessment to go with sourcing, maybe not now, but in the future.
Of course.
And part of that assessment, in my opinion, would be through the use of chatbots. I don't know if anyone has any comments about that.
So one thing about, Sandra, what Sandra and Noam said, Gal, sorry. I think we're focusing on assessing, we're focusing on recruiting. At the end of the day, the function that I think needs most nurturing for organizations to change their DNA is the hiring managers themselves and how they value and grow and nurture soft skills of their employees, because they're becoming, hopefully, the next generation managers within the organization. If you're only focusing on bringing in the right people, that's fine, but if the manager doesn't know how to nurture them over the next 18, 24, 36 months, whatever the period, then it was all in vain. And again, then you get back into that cultural gap. By the way, in technology today, the average time for an individual in a company is under 20 months, give or take, for a candidate to stay within the company. So if you don't quickly embrace them as part of your organizational DNA, you're stuck at the same point.
Maybe I can add to this one, to what Shahar just mentioned. I think that on top of the manager's kind of education, which is certainly significant, we do need to take a look also on the function of the employees. Eventually, employees, the way we see that, have two main challenges when we talk about, let's say, internal development. One is the visibility to opportunities. They actually have no idea where they can develop themselves. And second is the mindset of having, let's say, the linear traditional approach. If I am pursuing a new career role within the company, that would be only a full-time transition. And to my opinion, actually we should actually have them engaged by saying them somehow via technology, you can take ownership on your career development. And you can also pursue different types of career opportunities which are reflecting what we call a horizontal growth rather than linear growth. I can pursue new skills, I can pursue new experiences, not necessarily new titles. And those could be accommodated by, let's say, part-time projects, mentoring, shadowing opportunities, even swap opportunities inside the company, and so on.
So I'm particularly fascinated by what Noam's company does. And I saw on his website that Jerome Wells, who's the executive vice president of human resources at Unilever, said that they believe that skills are the currency that gets you experiences for a purposeful career. Inner mobility, which is sort of a term that I believe Gloat has coined, gives our people opportunities to build future-fit skills and experiences. It helps us to create a Unilever that is agile with frictionless access to skills and talent. So tell us about the case study, because to me, it feels like a bunch of chaos. You know, everybody is being matched with, it's like having a dating company within your company that you get matched within a company, but different divisions. Next thing you know, you're upsetting your manager because you're doing a side project and you're like, hey, I'm within the app, I'm cool. So it's like losing an employee. And then they could fear that they're going to move over to that department.
Yeah, it's a great point, and it's actually a challenge we've been facing, or we were asking a lot about. Perhaps first, only to reflect on the first point you mentioned, I think it's cool to see this metaphor of how you actually get a currency of skills. It's like it's your money, and you go and shop in the internal market. You actually pursue opportunities based on the skills you're purchasing. But now to get back to the challenge aspect. So one of the things, and I think Shahar mentioned it earlier in his talk, is that companies need to adopt this mindset that if they're not actually letting their employees kind of explore the market, they would either leave or even worse, they would stagnate. And that's a pain point for companies, in particular on their bottom line, or their financial results, and so on. What we can do by actually deploying the technology is to do it A, very gradual, and B, applying company policy. So let's say companies can say, okay, let's let employees pursue new skills and experiences, but only up to 20% of their bandwidth, for example. So we can kind of oversee the traffic or the dynamic inside the system, while acknowledging the fact that it is becoming way more loose and way more direct connection between managers and employees. I
really commend you for being way ahead of your time. I would love to see a time, and I'm curious if you think this would happen, where once you allow for intermobility, will companies allow for external mobility, meaning that as a retention tool, they will allow in their contracts to allow people to contract out, whether it's to starter companies, advising, using their expertise. I personally think it would be an incredible retention tool.
Yeah, so only to reflect on that, Shahar, I guess you have to say, but only to complete the idea, the future is here, actually. There is this concept, it is called job swaps or secondments, if you wish. Actually, it's a discussion we have with our current use cases. You mentioned Unilever, there are a few more enterprises on that regard, and certainly that's of an interest for companies to play around with, let's say, non-compete companies and to let their employees explore other opportunities, either for a fixed amount of time, either for a part-time project. Certainly something we already hear in the market.
So let's talk about AI for just a minute, because it applies to all sectors. 85% of executives today, according to Gartner, are introducing AI projects. They're either buying them, building them, or outsourcing them. But what about talent acquisition experts? Are they able to adopt to AI? Is AI even really exist, or is it really a subset of machine learning? So my question to you, Gal, is where do you see the internal recruiter of today, the teams, the external recruiters? I'd love to get your opinions without being too harsh on me. Thank you.
All right, so it's AI and a subset of that, which is machine learning. AI can do two things, essentially. One is automate manual work, bring efficiency. And number two, derive wisdom from data that human cannot, because they cannot process so much data. And I think as far as automation, obviously, companies are interested in automating labor-intensive tasks that recruitment professionals are doing. But at the end of the day, they don't really care. They only care for the outcome. They don't care if it's done by AI or 100 little midgets somewhere in the world. The solution will be judged by their value and, of course, their cost. I don't know if I disappointed you.
No, I think that knowing recruiters as I do, and I'm talking about my clients, they will resist technology. And it's a problem in companies in general. They resist technology because they're afraid they're going to lose their job, right? So how will companies deal with that? How will companies deal with the fact that they know that tomorrow that person won't be needed anymore?
So if I may, I'll take an equivalent from a different world. And if we go back into the world of IT a decade or two ago, IT was afraid that AWS will get all out of a job, because that change will mean no need for IT, and they were objecting for Amazon or Cloud General for several years, to a point where they were bypassed and shadow IT started growing, until IT departments realized they either bring value or they get out of the way. I think the biggest change for HR recruiters, to your point, will come from a point where they realize their job is not to recruit, their job is to help the businesses grow and supply the business what they need. Sometimes they just need workers to get the work done. Sometimes they need to build the organizational DNA by bringing in the soft skills, and tools are there to help them support the business. If they don't know how to support the business, all they know what to do is to scam through a set of CVs, then they're not needed.
Sandra, what do you think? Where will the tech be used, and where will the person be used? And do you think that there will always be that need for the high-tech, high-touch?
First of all the HR tech area is dealing with this tension between, or balance between, where we need it as humans and what could be replaced by machines, and it's scary. I'm a recruiter. I know it could be scary that someone is intimidating on your professionalism, but we all use technology to do something else. If we use, I don't know, iRobot to clean our house, we don't need to be scared because it won't replace my husband, right? So I'm just kidding, it was a joke. Programmers use tools in order to help them to code faster and cleaner code, right? So I think it's a matter of time and education. The technology is here to help us to be more professional. And yes, if my job is something really, really technical, I might be looking at a change. I need to adapt myself. We all need to adapt ourselves to this new era of technology. But recruiters, when they're doing their job right, they're talking to the hiring manager and trying to really understand the company DNA and the soft skills needed. They're not just matching between a point in a CV and a point in the job description. They try to really understand the needs of the company, what kind of a product it is, what kind of, I don't know, a coder do I need? Do I need someone who sees the whole picture, or do I need someone who's really going fast and writing the right thing, right? So, and on the other hand, when I'm talking to candidates, I need to feel they're enthusiastic. I need to feel, do they like to learn by themselves? Do I have Git? Do they go to meetups about their professional area, right? So the matching is just a starting point. Using bots is just a starting point if you're really into people.
I think part of the answer, if I may, has to do with the next subject, which is big data. And and we as recruiters saw the need for big data in all departments. It used to be that every company had a data analyst team. Then it went from every department hired a data analyst, hired a business intelligence person. Now recruiting teams are hiring, they call it people operations, but their entire people analytics, data, all HR is now hiring teams of data analysts. So I think the answer to the question is the high tech, high touch is that either they will learn to become data-driven individuals in the HR departments, and then those that have good soft skills will become even better at the soft skills, and will become even more important to the organization because they'll be there to be consultants to the hiring process versus just right now where some of them may just be paper pushers.
Yeah.
Again, I think the key is to be that business partner. It's not just to figure out what needs to be hired. What is the purpose? Why are we looking for that individual or individuals or a team? What are we trying to solve? And then the HR's role is to help advise, be the trusted advisor. I recommend we get this mix. I recommend we get this semi-talented person, but that can do the job faster. I think a lot of it has to come with understanding, start with why, not just with filling that job.
Understanding business needs and to understand the future needs, and then try to build the teams and the company culture, taking those needs into consideration, right?
So assuming look into the future, and everyone in recruitment is now data-driven or super high-level soft skills, where do we see data in a fully implemented way look like in the future in terms of both recruiting individuals, assessing, and potentially retention?
So I think eventually if we look at a company, apparently not only on a company, also on an individual, we have different islands of data, either through the HR information systems, the learning systems, analytic systems, applicant tracking systems. There are multiple platforms inside an organization which hold a large portion of data. And I think that the idea, or how to create what we call data flow, is to make sure that the experience eventually, when we talk about data, is seamless. Hence, we're integrating with different platforms across the organization, and we're actually leveraging different pieces of information eventually to, let's say, draw what we call a career trajectory for an employee within the company. And I think this is an interesting concept because, in the past, we used to think of let's take a job requisition, right? A template of a job requisition. So apparently it's something we constantly use, organizations use it, but maybe it's completely outdated, and maybe it's completely irrelevant to what are the real needs from a certain job, from a certain position, right? And actually AI has the power to use, or actually to consider way more you know data in order to really find the best match between an employee and a requisition.
Can I add something from the other side of the phone or table, from being the HR? The simplest solution will win. And like my dream is that there will be one platform, no-brainer. I'll push a button, it will be sourcing. I'll push a button, it will be, I don't know, soft skill evaluator. I'll push. I mean, there are so many solutions right now. There's so many. It's rising. There's so many ideas, and I'm tech savvy, like really bad one. So many ideas on the table, so many ways to get it faster and better. Then, in some points, I just want to say, oh, okay, I don't need anything. I'll go back to my Excel.
We should start a company because I had the same exact idea, right?
Okay, right.
There's just way too much noise.
They all say share your ideas.
No, it's great. There's way too many platforms. It's hard for an investor to decide. They all sound great. They have a lot of promises. But when you talk to the actual recruiters who use those tools, they're like, yeah, my best candidates come from LinkedIn or come from referrals. I go, what about all these tools? They're out there. Yeah, we've tried it, and they're all the same. But I think that they all have value, but if they were able to somehow be brought under one roof, right. Which actually leads me to Shahar, because in learning more about what he's doing, they have, in a way, a kayak for the on-demand gig economy, which is a good segue into the next subject, the gig economy. But this way, is it true? You try to say you're the kayak for the gig economy? Explain a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's a part of it that you might refer to as the kayak of the gig economy. By the way, some people are getting sensitive with the word gig because they feel like they're professionals, and gig sounds like something very non-professional. But I'm not here to try start a wave of anti-gig economy.
What's the best word? On-demand?
I call it on-demand
interim
talent, but it's self-serving, so I'm not sure that's the right term. We don't look at ourselves just as a marketplace. We're first and foremost a management platform for organization. Anybody that ever worked for a company with more than 20, 30 people and try to onboard on-demand talent, freelancers, consultants, call it whatever you want, knows the pain of getting that through the systems. Larger organization, it might take months. You lose control. There's no budget. In my last job running products and marketing at Kenshu, I had dozens and dozens of freelancers and contractors, and every time I needed something, we couldn't find the contract. We found out they never signed an NDA. You get into these, you're breaching a lot of regulations by not having that under control, which slows down the process of getting the talent when you need it. So we're combining, first and foremost, a management platform that also provides access to the talent through trusted networks, so you know what you're getting and when you're getting it.
So I believe you quoted on the phone that 35% of the current economy is, call it interim talent, and in the next couple years, it's going to be close to 60%.
Yeah, so the current statistics by the Department of Labor Statistics, Lishkat HaTa'asuka, in the US, states that 35% of workforce right now is engaging in some capacity in non-traditional employment, part-time gig, full-time gigs, 100% of the time, whatever. Everybody has different things. Our common reaction is, well, they're all driving Uber. Well, it turns out of 55 million semi-freelancers in the US, only 1.4 are driving Uber and Lyft, so there's still a lot that are in a different space. We're focusing on white collar. Current projection is that by 2030, 60% of the workforce will be freelancing in some capacity, which is a huge number by any stretch of imagination. 55 million freelancers, growing by 1 to 2 million every year. Out of Gen Z, and I literally just looked at what Gen Z means 2 weeks ago. It's people that were born after 1995 and have started making, you're nodding your head, maybe you're a Gen Z, I don't know.
No.
I didn't know that.
I'm not.
But apparently they just started to make their way into the workforce. Think 1995, only 2015, 2016 they graduated college. 46% of them are freelancing. 75 out of the 46% are doing it by choice, saying they will never take a traditional employment arrangement. So never say never, but these people don't want to work the way we got used to working. We never wanted to work like our parents, stayed the same place for 40 years. They don't want to work like we're working. They're choosing a different form of life. And organizations that don't prepare themselves to that type of engagement will fall behind. You're not going to be able to train your internal workforce to do those things. So it's time to rethink and recode how organizations operate.
Well, you just gave recruiters the best line ever when we submit a resume of a quote-unquote job hopper, and they go, "Oh, we don't want to hire that person because they moved around a lot." Like, but they're perfect. And now we could say, "Listen, we quote the statistics, but they're still going to reject the candidate."
I interviewed in the past 4 months over 40 candidates, 40% of which are freelancers, and I would take each and every one of them compared to pretty much anyone else I interviewed. Every time I moved a job, that was my growth trajectory. I learned new things, I brought in new things, music starting, so I'll stop here before I get too boring. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Shahar, Sandra, Alan, Gal, and Noam.